This is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is officially, I think, the last chapter of the year. Last chapter of 2016. Last chapter of the year of Sanji. Well, I mean, was it really the year of Sanji? Or was it just the year of what the fuck? You let me know. Now, the plot twist in this chapter, I hate to toot my own horn, I don't want to seem arrogant, but I did. If you go to my review of chapter 845 and you go to 7 minutes, you can literally hear me say, I do not trust this bitch. I think this bitch is crazy. Turns out Pudding is evil, alright? She's a very good actress. She's probably going to get a lot of Oscars. A lot of Oscars in her future if she doesn't get the shit beat out of her in this arc. Now, despite the fact that I kind of suspected that she was evil, I do want to give credit to Oda for keeping the situation ambivalent enough so that people would go back and forth discussing whether she was or she wasn't. I think that's a very, very good skill as a writer. Now, the cover page, I thought it was good. I liked it. I thought it was a pun. Nice pun. Heavy smoker, you know. Heavy being snake. We open up with Carrot and Chopper, who are running around on top of Diesel, who I thought was like being put to good use. And it turns out that Brulee's ability actually keeps working even though she's unconscious. So as long as they find the right mirror, they can find a way into the castle. However, there's too many mirrors and they just can't find the right one. So that's going to take some time. We go over to the kitchen where Sanji is, and I specifically noticed that out of the stuff that he put together, two things really stood out. First were the tangerines, which, you know, that's like a Nami thing, and then the meat. I'm like, why? So you're still having like PTSD over your friends in a way, because you're packing with stuff that Nami and Luffy likes, right? And so I thought that was cool, but I do think I know what's going to happen. Because, okay, so at the end of the chapter, Sanji finds out that, like I said, his wife-to-be is insane. So I'm pretty sure that meal is not going to go to waste. So who else do you think he's going to give it to? Remember that line that Luffy said, I will not eat anything unless it comes from your hands, Sanji? I'm pretty sure Sanji's going to take that basket, give it to Luffy. Luffy's going to eat up, and he's going to be ready to fight. He's going to have like an impel down moment where he's like, I'm back! Luffy's gonna need a lot of energy to be able to fight his way out of Whole Cake Island. It's not gonna be an easy trip out. You have two Sweet Commanders left, plus Big Mom. I'm not really sure what's gonna happen to the Vinsmokes after this chapter. It could be possible. Notice that I'm saying possible, not likely. That the Vinsmokes view this situation, they realize that Big Mom wanted to kill them from the start, and they think about it and they're like, okay, this bitch wanted to murder us, Red Wedding style from the start. Luffy, we don't like you, but the enemy of our enemy is our friend. We don't really care what you do, but, you know, the more people we have on our side, the better. So let's try and beat these people up. Let's try and take a... I can totally see Ichiji being like, I just don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. Or do you think that the Vinsmokes have been established as big enough assholes for the team up to never happen? Because that's a probability too, right? That it just doesn't happen because they're very selfish, but that's why I'm actually using that in support of that idea, because the Vinsmokes seem like the type of people that they would do anything as long as it's convenient for them. So if Luffy fighting on their behalf helps them out, I don't think they would be opposed to that necessarily, especially when they have a Yonko trying to kill them. It's also very important to look at the issue from Sanji's perspective, because out of the two sides, and there's not really two sides, there's three if you include the Straw Hats, Luffy. All right, so that's the third side. But out of the two, out of Big Mom and the Vinsmokes, who do you think Sanji is more likely to side with? I think it's the Vinsmokes, just because he doesn't hate Reiju. All right, so in fact, Reiju helped him out when he was little. And another thing, I do want to say that despite the fact that the Vinsmokes were abusive and they were assholes to Sanji, there was a moment in the flashback in which Judge told him, I cannot kill you. So, and obviously that's not saying that the Vinsmokes were good or anything. They're still douchebags. But if it's between these two, I mean, who do you think Sanji's going to end up helping, even if it's inadvertently? Now, technically speaking, the only reason for why Sanji needs to stick around is to get the cuffs removed, and also for somebody to tell him, hey, okay, Zeph is free to go. He's no longer a hostage. The whole Zeph situation has been taken care of. You don't have to worry about that. Now, and this is one of the questions that I have, because I never understood who is holding Zeph hostage. Is it the Vinsmokes or is it Big Mom's side? Because I do remember the guy who whispered in Sanji's ear the thing about Zeph was Vito, and Vito is with Capone, and Capone is under Big Mom. So I never really understood, like, who is really threatening Zeph's life? Is it Big Mom's side, or is it the Vinsmoke side? If it's the Vinsmoke side, yeah, okay, I see. I definitely do not see them teaming up at all. Technically speaking, it does definitely have more emotional weight if Sanji does end up beating up one of his siblings or Judge, just because of what he's been through with them. If he beats somebody from the Big Mom side, the emotional weight isn't there, but I'm pretty sure he's still going to get that power up. So, and plus, you know, he already kind of beat up Yonji off screen. This chapter left us with a shit ton of possibilities in terms of what could happen next. And I don't think any of them are set in stone. Now, all right, if this were up to Luffy would probably just say, okay, let's just beat everybody who was mean to us. We don't care. We'll just beat everybody who was mean to us. That's the way Luffy thinks. He's an action guy. Sanji, on the other hand, is more strategic in his way of thinking. He's more methodical. And at this point, he's the only one that can actually try and do something, really. I mean, who else can do... I mean, Brook, I don't know what happened with him. Like, Pedro's busy taking on Tamago. Chopper's in the mirror world. Luffy is apparently willing to rip his hands off to escape the prison book, all right? So everybody's, like, doing something else. The only person that actually knows the truth and that actually is in a position to do something about it is Sanji. So the ball is in his court. Let's see what he does with it in 2017. Now we go to Pedro and Tamago, and I love this part of the chapter. Find out a little bit more about their fighting style. You know, Pedro using Electro and his sword, and then Tamago I thought was funny because he was just spinning, or he was just doing kind of like, you know, cartwheels and shit with his feet and stuff. So that was cool. We find out their bounties, both, just to give you some type of comparison, are above Zoro's bounty, but below Luffy and Law's. Pedro is at 382, and Tamago is 429. And then we get a flashback, and I really love the flashback because there was this character called Zeppo, who I strongly believe happens to be Beppo's dad, and Big Mom killed him. And so this kind of ends up helping us learn more about the way the roulette works, because it turns out the numbers were actually the amount of years that Big Mom takes away from you. So in Zeppo's case, it landed on 100, so she took 30 because that's all he could give. Then he died, and she's like, well, I'm still 70 years short. Somebody needs to fess up those 70 years. And so it was up to Pedro. And by the way, in that panel, in that flashback, there's one shot of Big Mom talking, and there's a girl with long hair that has a spear. Who is that? I mean, it may like be like nobody important, but I don't know. Is that like I just want Bonnie to show up so bad. So I'm saying it's Bonnie. Just fuck it. I'm just kidding. But anyway, yeah. So Pedro's like, okay, well, no, I don't have 70 years. And like Peckham's is like crying his eyes out. So Big Mom says, fine, give me 60. But then it's like, wait a minute, no. Like, you know, you actually took off like one of Tamago's eyes. I'm still pissed about that. So Pedro actually takes off his own eye and offers it. And then she's like, okay, you got that. I give you 10 years for that. Just give me 50. But that's still a shit ton of time. I think the fact that we got the roulette explained to us is an indicator that we're going to be seeing Jinbei pretty soon. Now, he has a sad flashback, and then he has a pretty good speech about how the Straw Hats are going to be the people that actually force this world to meet its dawn. I don't know, man. The probabilities of Pedro becoming a potential Straw Hat are kind of like growing up after this chapter. Now, the question still remains, what was Pedro and his crew doing in Whole Cake Island in the first place? Now, Tamago says he has like these special tights that don't really conduce electricity, and he uses like an opening to hit Pedro, and he asks the question, why did you come back here? Like, what the fuck? And then Pedro's like, you know, because I believe in the Straw Hats, and he uses his sword, and he pretty much turns them into Humpty Dumpty. He cracks the egg, he just cuts them. It's a clean cut. I guess this pretty much confirms the fact that Tamago is a paramecia, because otherwise he'd be dead from that slash. And again, just props to Pedro. He had a pretty epic speech. I have no intention of dying here. Oh, that was great. We go over to the final part of the chapter, which is obviously the conversation that Pudding is having with Reiju. Now, first things first, your mind is probably going to think, hey, this is happening in the past. This is a flashback, and it explains how Reiju got hurt. That is wrong. That is wrong. This is happening in the present, meaning that whoever beat Reiju, whoever did that thing to Reiju's leg is still around. It might have been Pudding, and maybe she escaped. and then maybe Pudding got her back in again, like she took her hostage and captured Reiju again. It might have been her, but I'm more willing to believe that it was somebody else. And again, it's not a flashback. If it were a flashback explaining what happened to Reiju, we would have black margins like Kishimoto. And this is all white margins. It's happening in the present. It's not explaining what happened. But again, it could have been Pudding. We're just not like 100% sure of that right now. Now, we go back to like a scene where Luffy's thinking about what Pudding told them, like whispered to them. And she says, that idiot is going to be shot to death tomorrow by me. And I'm like, you mean shot with bullets? Because bullets against somebody that has like pretty good observation hockey like Sanji are probably not going to do a whole lot. Pretty sure Sanji would be able to dodge those shots even if he was unprepared. Like even if he didn't know that Pudding was planning on shooting him, which now he does. But anyway, it turns out that Big Mom just wanted the germ of science because she wants to have a clone army. Clone army of what though? Like giants? But anyway, yeah, Sanji has indeed been heartbroken. We don't get to see his eyes in that final panel, which means I think he's just crushed. You can actually see the lightning come down to crush his dreams. That's it's a sad situation, but I'm pretty sure that Sanji's going to be able to just get back up and just get back in there to make things right. And so what's interesting though is that I think this is just going to set up a war. A war is about to start in Whole Cake Island. I can almost guarantee the moment the Vinsmokes get news of this, they're going to be like, the judge is going to be like, execute Order 66, release the clones. And they're going to have the clones march into the castle and start shooting. I don't know. It's going to be crazy. Or here's the funny part. It may be the case where the Vinsmokes were like, yeah, like we knew they were trying to kill us, but guess what? We're also thinking of killing them in the wedding as well. So it's kind of like they're bad people, but we're bad people too. So we were already prepared for this to go down this way. So not a big deal. That's one possibility. And also, we still don't know what Pudding's third eye does. I still think it has something to do with like mental powers, like some type of hypnosis. That's it for me, for my last review of the year of One Piece. I want to thank you for sticking with me throughout this year and just following this adventure with me. Hopefully you'll be able to subscribe and keep following me to see where this this narrative and this great story takes us in 2017. Thank you so much for watching. As always, like the video if you did, subscribe to my channel, comment down below what you thoughts, tell me what you thought. That was a great chapter. Bye.